Hello Madison College Cisco 2, it's Chris again. Here's a short video on logging. We have our logging server set up here, server 1, in the same network as I showed you for NTP and CDP LLDP, and it has a nice syslog facility here, and we're going to see that we're doing things right because we will see, with a bit of luck, syslog messages start appearing in this log here once I've set up my device to communicate correctly. So first of all, let's do a ping 1.1.1.4. Sweet, I've got connectivity. So let me have a look now. Let's just end the configuration mode here. We're going to have a look first of all at show log with no logging configuration. This tells us that we have pretty much nothing running, which is as we would expect. There is no other options that we can use, so without anything going on we need to start it up. So let's go to conft startup logging ? And we've got a nice set of options here we can work with. So the one we're going to experiment with first of all is a.b.c.d. That's the address of the logging host. If we looked at logging buffered, that gives us an opportunity to change the size of the local buffer. What we do when we put in the command logging 1.1.1.4, that is telling this router that it should no longer send syslog messages to the local buffer that's held locally on the machine. It should send syslog messages to the logging host. So I'm going to put in logging 1.1.1.4, and the only option there is to hit carriage return. So many things will generate syslog messages. So one of them will be an interface coming up or down. I created a loop back earlier. Let's do a no shut. Oh, it was not shut. Oh, okay, then let's do a shut. And let's come over here, and lo and behold, we see my host, which was sourced 1.1.1.2, with messages here that have been logged in the syslog server. That's pretty much what we want to do. There's some other things that you should be doing with syslog. So when you have a console cable connected, we can get into the configuration of that console port by typing in line con0. Very useful command is logging synchronous, and that makes sure that syslog messages do not interrupt our ability to be writing CLI. So if I was typing in here interface and there was a syslog messages come up, that syslog message would come in here and interface at that point in typing interface and interrupt my CLI, and it would be difficult to know where I was and how to finish the command. But when you have logging synchronized, you don't have that problem. The syslog message just appears, and then you come back to this point in the CLI. Let's just go in and look at some more options here for the logging command. Logging trap is probably the next one that you'd want to look at. That sets the level to which you want logging messages recorded. So if you type logging trap 4, it will only send those at level 4 or below, meaning level 0 to 4. Being packet tracer, we're logging trap only allows us to set this for debugging if we wish to put a restriction on it. So that is pretty much it for syslog. It's very straightforward. It's CCNA. We don't really have many things to mess around with. The primary command is the logging followed by the IP address, and you can then use some of these commands here that you see in front of you. Something that is useful outside, but unfortunately we don't get to see it again on Packet Tracer, is that if you could do a logging source interface, and then did a loopback 0. Now the reason people do this in practice is that if all of your routers have a loopback that is meaningful for their name, so if router 1 had the loopback 1.1.1.1, router 2 had the loopback 2.2.2.2 or something similar, where you could quickly tell from the source interface what router it was, that's useful when you come to look at logs, because here it tells you the host name and it gives you the IP address of the source packet. Typically the device will just use the IP address of the interface that it's going to use to send the packet towards the syslog server, and that can change if routing on the network changes and you've got multiple possible routes, and you start using a different source interface to get to the syslog server. That number will change and you won't be able to tell which device is sending the information. So it's much nicer if you can have a meaningful loopback address that as soon as you look at it you know which router it's come from. Makes it much easier to read the syslog messages. So that is it for syslog right now, and thanks very much. I'll see you in class.